Rob, I've brought you a Diet Coke. I know that's your favourite tipple.
It's my drink of choice, and I see you've got your drink of choice, which is
have
basically anything that's got alcohol in
a
it.
cheeky little Sancerre from
Yes,
the
you do.
Loire Valley. We just came up with a phrase there, which was, I want real conversation. And the conversation is about hospitality, which is this weird and wonderful industry that people seldom aspire to be in. But by my recent research, there are 3 million of us actually working directly in hospitality. And there's a further 3.5 million, including your side of the business, your people, who are the fixers, the movers and shakers, who actually make hospitality happen. Now, that's 6.5 million people in an island that has something like 60 million.
Mm.
So we're looking at 10% of the population, not the working population, just the full population, are in this industry one way or another. I also work with a charity called Speakers for Schools, where I advocate not to go to university and to talk about a picture of the possibilities of what is possible in hospitality.
Yeah, interesting point you made there. It became, in my humble opinion, very fashionable for people to encourage or indeed send their children to university. And all of a sudden these universities popped up that were polytechnics back in the day. Mm. And I think there's a lot of children went to uni when they would have been better off getting into the workplace at the age of 16.
Yeah, apprenticeships.
Yeah, and if you look at how much money they would have earned between the age of 16 and 21, as against how much debt they'd racked up going to university.
They talk about the debt when you get into universities, but they don't mention the cost sacrifice, the fact that you've not been earning.
Absolutely.
So actually, at the end of the day, it is not just a 60,000 or a 70,000. You do have that physical debt for sure, and you have to pay it back at some stage, but you've also sacrificed 15, 18, 22,000 a year for 3, 4, 5 years.
It adds up.
Hospitality, when I do this talk and I'm sitting with 200-300 kids in the hall, and has anybody been suggested hospitality by the careers officer? Nobody. You know, it's like everybody in the world cannot be a social worker, doctor, nurse.
Yeah.
People have to understand that you are going to end up here anyway, so why not jump in early, get a head start. But we're getting away. I'm getting into education there, where I really want to be like 2 grumpy old men who are talking a lot of shit about veg. But the vegetables that create the menus that people come out to dine in, it's the possibilities of how you get into this business. I mean, I don't know your story. I know you a long time. How many restaurants do you supply?
We deliver to about 300 restaurants a day.
300 restaurants?
Yeah, or thereabouts. And all, like yours, demanding and discerning. And that's a lot of fun. Looking after the mid-market is okay, but the real buzz is when you are dealing with people that stretch you, ask for things.
Yeah.
And that's fun. And there's no 2 days the same. I'm incredibly privileged that I have, for me, the best job in the world. Because every morning I wake up, it's like, right, here we go again. Yeah. It's another day, so it must be another set of opportunities.
Similarly, in my house, we do have some educated souls. There's a BA, MA, and a PhD, and my wife always cringes when I cite her as the one who has all of those credentials. But I'm the one that really kind of bounces out in the morning in a job that I love doing. I don't feel like I'm going to work.
No, I'm the same.
And a lot of people will say that hospitality, and I'm going to be bigging up hospitality for the next 55 minutes, whilst also trying to highlight what goes on behind the scenes. Because you're one of dozens of suppliers with dozens of ingredients. I'm bouncing out and I'm enjoying what I do. Nobody ever told me to head towards hospitality. But I did find my way, and brief history is at 16 I left school. At 20 I joined Raymond Blanc at Le Manoir Quatre Saisons, and I was working. People always think that I'm a chef. I'm not. I've always been front of house. I wanted to be a chef age 12, and that went badly wrong as soon as I started working as a chef in Blackpool in 1979, 1980. I think we're probably similar vintages.
Yeah, I left school when I was 16 in 1979, yeah.
I found my way into hospitality, and I kind of feel it was a bit of a saviour for me. It is the only thing that I'm really, really good at, as well as talking and bullshitting and, what do we say? I'm able to talk the hind legs of a donkey when it comes to hospitality and what we do, how we make people feel, how we make people welcome. We set the scene, we have a stage, but then there's this backstage, and this is a little bit of what I want to dig into and talk about, is that it's not just a cauliflower.
No, there's a lot goes into this, but just touch on the point. Did you work in France at some point?
I was in France in Monte Carlo and in Cannes.
Am I right in thinking that they view hospitality somewhat differently in France, whereby they do view it as a career?
Totally, yeah, absolutely.
Whereas here it's almost just a means to an end, possibly a fill-in.
If you can't do anything else, look towards hospitality. You have waiters who have years of training in colleges. We don't have any similar courses in the UK that delve in as deeply. And then once you're in the industry, you have various accolades that you can work towards, like a meilleur ouvrier de France, which would almost be like an MBE here in the UK, where you are voted by your peers, and you go through exams as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of pride attached to it then.
It is. It is a proper career.
Yeah.
We will get there one day. People will start to understand that, Gordon Ramsay, what's he worth?
The lad's done well.
I don't think he went to university.
No.
And I think he's worth about 250 million with 150 restaurants worldwide. An amazing career, an amazing charismatic character in the industry.
And very driven. Very, very driven.
Well,
I've never met him, don't know him, but the persona that I've seen, this guy's driven.
But we are both driven in our different ways, but he is very much big picture.
Yeah.
I'm driven in that every day I want my restaurant to be pushing forward. I want pied-à-terre to be the best it can be. And that's why we come to the likes of you to get back to that cauliflower. I love this cauliflower story.
Well,
I'm a fan of and I never knew.
Well, the cauliflower one it's to me, I've always known it, but the cauliflower is available 12 months of the year, grown in Britain. Occasionally, if we have some very, very cold weather, we're bringing it in from overseas, but otherwise it's there. But the cauliflower you've got in your hand at the moment, that would have been planted in probably July of last year. They're different varieties that mature at different stages, but they're a very slow growing type of cauliflower. It's a winter cauliflower. Oof. The opposite to that is what is a summer cauliflower, which is planted in, the planting starts in February, March, and you'll start seeing your first summer cauliflower coming through next month. Now, it grows very, very quickly, because the growing conditions are perfect and it's not bred to be winter hardy. But the difference you'll get between the two cauliflower is the winter cauliflower, because it grows slowly and it's in the ground a long time, it can have a very strong cauliflower taste sometimes, which you're going to say, well, isn't it supposed to? But it can almost be a bit overbearing and too strong. And occasionally it can be borderline bitter. In fact, sometimes it's more bitter than Liz Truss. But what you will get with a summer cauliflower, it grows much more quickly. It's less dense in the curd, so it's more delicate on the palate, and it's a more delicate cauliflower flavour. And that, very simply, is the difference between winter and summer cauliflower. That's
The
it.
fact that there's twice a year blew me away. I had no idea.
Yeah.
But you always see a cauliflower in the supermarket.
That's it, because they are available year round and people eat them all year round.
My favourite is just raw.
Yeah.
I put a squeeze of lemon juice and a touch of olive oil on that.
Yeah, but I mean, dare I use the phrase crudité? But if I'm going to eat raw cauliflower, I'm eating it in the summer. I'm eating summer cauliflower. Because you're doing nothing to it. There's nowhere to hide. Whereas a winter cauliflower, indeed any cauliflower come to that, you can chuck cheese sauce on it. You can muck around with it. You can put spice on it, chili on it.
These leaves
whatever.
are tasty as well.
Oh, I never had you down as a rabbit, but hey ho. But yeah, so that is very simply the difference that's in a cauliflower.
So Rob has 300 restaurant clients. How do you get to us? There must be you're not on bicycles or motorbikes. There's a fleet of vans.
Yeah, we have 15 vehicles, but we have a very, very small delivery area where we're located in New Covent Garden, which is right opposite Battersea Power Station.
Mm-hmm.
And just as an aside, if anybody hasn't been to the new redeveloped Battersea Power Station, go and have a look. It is phenomenal. They've done a great job. So we're located very, very close to a huge volume of high quality and some high volume restaurants. So we're in the best place. However, the cost of operating in central London, doesn't matter what your business, is high.
Yeah.
But to give an illustration of how far we don't drive, is that basically we spend twice as much per week on the congestion charge as we do on diesel, which sounds completely bonkers, and it is, but that's the reality of it. That's the stat. But it means we're not actually driving very far. So per £1,000 worth of turnover, in terms of carbon emissions and vehicle things, our carbon footprint's pretty low, because we don't go very far to do it. But yeah, it's a very sort of quick and dirty system whereby customers will place orders with us during today and up to midnight. So the order cut-off time is around midnight, and then by 5 a.m., 5 hours later, everything's packed, loaded, and the vehicles are rolling.
Yeah, you've got keys and codes.
Yeah, we have keys, alarm codes, all sorts of things, and it's lovely that customers trust you to do that, because if you try to deliver during, shall we say, daylight hours, office hours, if you will, one, we'd never get there because the traffic would kill us, so you'd probably want twice as many vehicles on the road to actually do it. And actually, we'd be too late for chefs to do their mise en place.
Yeah, chefs do it at 7 a.m.
Yeah, that's it, and they want it there.
Wanting to paint this picture of hospitality and having our suppliers, there's a supplier that we use for fish, Johnny, with a company called Flying Fish.
Know him, great guy.
And,
big tennis fan, yeah.
Didn't
In
know
fact,
that.
Roger Federer's #1 fan.
And, oh God, I don't know. Okay, well, I'll let that one lie. So we place an order with them by 2 p.m. in the afternoon.
Yep.
They go to the quayside. They buy directly from the day boats coming in from, it's in the title, day boat.
Yeah.
Goes out in the morning, comes back same day with its catch. And it's all line caught, there's no trawling. And he puts our fish into a box. And it's fascinating when he arrives at the restaurant and the jigsaw of boxes, it's the last drop goes in first and the first drop. And it's all got to be beautifully jigsawed together.
Yeah.
And this huge chain of keys around his neck and fobs. So it means that when the chef arrives at 7 o'clock in the morning, yesterday's catch is in our fridge. Yeah. And that's an amazing point of quality and point of difference.
That's right. But whether it be your meat supplier, fish supplier, fruit and veg supplier, we're all doing a very, very similar thing based on the requirements of our customers. Mm-hmm. Get it there and then off you go. Yeah. The bit that we never know is how long you're going to sit on our product for. So we have an obligation to make sure it is as fresh as possible, because I don't know whether you're going to use it today, the day after, or the day after that. Once it's been delivered to your premises, we've lost control. Up to that point, we're in control of it. After that, we don't know. So we have to be absolutely certain that it's as fresh as it can be. And there's certain things that are very sensitive with a very, very short shelf life. I mean, I suppose you could think of the extreme as, I don't know, wild strawberries. I mean, they've got, you look at them and they're sort of melting in front of you.
I hate them. I love them, but I hate them from the financial point of view.
Yeah,
as soon
absolutely.
as we receive them, they are depreciating in
Absolutely,
value.
yeah. Whereas, things like onions and potatoes and what have you, they're robust, they're strong. Yeah. In fact, funny enough, I mean, we've got a couple of mangoes here.
We're going to talk mangoes now.
We're going to talk mangoes now because, to me, this is the best way I can illustrate what Rushton's is as a business. So this mango here is available in all good retail outlets, supermarkets, etc. Which one's this one? Spanish, is it?
Is it not Alfonso?
No, this one's actually Ivory Coast.
But exotic.
But it's picked very underripe, and it'll never really properly get ripe. They're that robust, you don't need to leave them in the fridge. You could leave them in your fucking will. It's, it's one of those jobs. This here, from Peru, was picked tree ripe. Comes over by air freight, not by sea.
Yep.
But if we get a chance later on, if you cut these and taste these, that's a mango.
Yeah.
That is something purporting to be a mango, in my humble opinion. We had to go into a shop to buy this today because we don't sell these sort of mangoes, because our customers don't want these sort of mangoes. That doesn't make us good, bad, right or wrong. We're just giving the customers what they ask for, what they require. But when you cut these, that will have a very bland, pale, very fibrous.
Yeah.
This will be like cutting through butter,
Oof.
Deep colour, and when you eat it, it's like, I never want to have one of those again. However, these are reassuringly expensive. They are not cheap. But to me, that illustrates what we're about as a business, because you've made us like it. It's that simple.
It is fascinating. I'm reading a book, Apple in China, and it is the quality of product that Steve Jobs demanded that has made China this amazing production zone. Because they had none of that ethos before him, and nobody was as demanding as him. And it is fascinating that, there's a whole other story there as well. But
going back to your end of it, I mean, so basically that's what we do, and it happens 6 days a week. Night follows day, repetition, but there are no 2 days the same, which from my point of view is great. But one thing I do is that I start work once and I finish work once. Now, what I can't get my head round is people in hospitality where you've got the split shift thing. Now, I don't know whether that's still as prevalent as it used to be, but having to start work twice a day, that would just fill me with absolute dread. So is that still the case?
There is a lot of double shifts, but I think a lot of the industry is moving towards a shorter week where we're offering the team 4 days of splits. So, I mean, you get 3 days off afterwards.
Yeah.
But going back to when I first started at the Manoir, I'd been very cheeky, and I pulled a bit of a stunt on my interview.
Surely not.
Surely not me. I'd arrived early and had a lunch at the Manoir, and at 10 to 3, I called the head waiter over and said, I've got an appointment with Monsieur Desonclos at 3 o'clock. Could you ask him to join me? And I talked myself into a job, and I was so keen to work there. I'd seen Raymond on Take 12 Cooks, one of the very, very first TV programmes that had a chef in it. And I'd worked at the Box Tree in Ilkley at 2-star.
Oh, yeah.
Before that, on industrial release, 26 weeks.
What's industrial release?
I did a HND at college.
Okay.
I needed to do a release into industry. For a whole bunch of sliding door reasons, I ended up at the Box Tree. From the Box Tree, then I got the steer to work for Raymond Blanc. Why was I telling you that? Oh, the rota. So I had never asked how much I was earning, what my hours were. I just had the start date. When did I have my induction day? And on the induction day, they showed me my rota. The next day, I was 9/6. And I went smashing 9-6. What am I going to do tomorrow night? I'll go into Oxford, maybe go to the cinema or something. I went, no. 9 o'clock and 6 o'clock are your start times.
Right.
So you do 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
You set up the restaurant. You get ready for lunch. You're the first to go. So maybe like a 2:30 finish,
Yep.
not a 4:30 finish. And you're back at 6. And then perhaps had a close that night, which means you had a late start the next day.
Yeah.
I did that for a year. And you build resilience, and you build you build an awful lot of knowledge working somewhere like that, and that was just the way it was. And I remember looking at my first pay slip, and I didn't even know what it was. But I looked at it. Okay, I can afford it. I can live here. But I was just so super motivated to work for Raymond Blanc, be at Le Manoir. And that was the guy I saw on telly. Now you see so many chefs on telly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's kind of lost its magic.
Yeah. So, but going back to that point I was making, so basically you were starting work twice a day.
Yeah, I start work.
Now,
I don't do that anymore. I just miss out the break in between, and I work. I will, from the moment I wake in the morning.
Yeah.
I am conscious of clearing my first batch of emails before 8:30 in the morning. Then I can start to relax. I might go to the gym, or other things might take. I had a pasta class this morning at Charlotte Street on the first floor. Saturday I've got a plant-based pasta class in the morning, and I've got a plant-based class and a pasta class on the same day. And it's be careful what you wish for, because we did some work with an SEO agency, and I said I'd love my classes to be full, and now they are full.
They're full,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh fuck!
Now I've got to actually do it.
Do you know, actually, teaching is so hard. I find I get more exhausted having a cookery class for 4 or 6 people than I do running a 40 cover service. 40 cover service, it's like everything is sort of like on muscle memory.
That's it. You don't even think about it. You just do it.
It's like Federer. He's serving out over there. He knows exactly what he's doing. When I walk into a room, I always say I'm the best waiter in the room, because I did that year at the Manoir on the floor before I got made up to an assistant head waiter. And some amazing possibilities in hospitality. You can be driving a van. Yeah. You can be owning. I mean, you must visit some of the most amazing places. I want to go to. Well, we do go to a lot of our individuals. We go to all of them, in fact. So, for instance, down in Gloucestershire, we go to the pig farmer. Yeah. I'm struggling to remember his name. Huntingsham Farm. I've been to Celtic, who are our shellfish suppliers up in Scotland. I'd love to get all these people to come into Bernie's Speakeasy and get them to talk about what they are doing, how they supply the industry.
Yeah, we love it when customers come and have a look at us, because everybody has an image in their mind of what something's going to look like in all aspects of our life. But if a customer comes to our place, just need half an hour in the warehouse, it brings the whole thing to life. The vast range of produce, and even better if there's a group of chefs, because what we do then is I just shut up and they start rabbiting between themselves. As guys, if we had this, we could do this with it. And they all start interacting. The point is, they leave the premises much better informed. They've got an understanding of what we do and how we do it, and indeed why we do it. And from my role, I have to try and get a decent level of understanding of how each of our customers operates, what their needs are, requirements are, what they, and that route, all that. But having customers come to us is great, because it fills a big knowledge gap from their point of view. And if they understand us better, then they can be it sounds mad, they can be a better customer. Yeah. They understand some of the problems and pitfalls that happen. At the end of the day, all this product here, everything we sell, none of it is manufactured. It's grown. It is at the vagaries of the weather. Too hot, too cold, too wet, you name it. Yeah. But in spite of all this, the phenomenal growers, not just in this country but around the world, can handle all that.
Such a moving target, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, on that subject, one of the biggest things farmers, growers now talk about is weather events. And by that, is it going to be too hot? Rarely is it too cold now. We don't see that. But huge deluges of rain,
Lovely cauliflower.
which can destroy product or destroy quality of product.
Destroy the soil as well.
Makes it very difficult to harvest. And last September, I took a group of chefs to a company called LJ Betts in Kent, who phenomenal, great salad growers. And we went there for a look round again, so it was a step further. They'd been to our place a few times, and let's go to where the product really originates from. We couldn't have picked a better day, because the day before there'd been rain of biblical proportions.
Noah and the Ark.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And there was so much water lying around, the soil was that wet and muddy, that as we were walking across a field, a number of people left their welly in the ground and the foot came out of the welly, and then of course there's nothing you can do because your momentum carries down, so the foot with just the sock and ends up in the mud. And it was marvellous to sit on the train coming back, and all these guys talked about
How did they cope with that?
we've got no idea. And they were saying, it was some little gem. Well, there was a number of things we looked at, but the little gem particularly. And they got that little gem that they were seeing, that these people struggling to get the rigs through the rigs. Sorry, I beg your pardon, but they cut the lettuce and they put it on a trailed machine, and it's all packed in the field, and great. But that lettuce they were looking at was going to end up in their kitchen at 6-7 o'clock the following morning. They got no idea what was going to have to go into this from the grower's point of view, just to do the last operation of picking, packing, distribution, getting it to clowns like us, and then we do the last.
You can't miss it. Because there's no escape. It's not like many jobs where you can skip a component and it will be fine. If you skip the component of picking it and packing it, well, you've lost everything there, haven't you? It's bonkers. Yeah,
but going back to this weather thing, climate change, global warming, call it what you will, it's for real. Yeah. Because we are seeing certain extremes. Okay, the last few years it hasn't been too hot, but we are getting higher average temperatures through the winter. That's not good news.
There's some advantages for us as well.
There are, but from a growing point of view, what you do need is you do need cold weather, because that kills bugs.
Kills the bugs, yeah.
And if you're not getting it really cold or cold enough, then they become more prevalent. But the big issue is unpredictable rainfall. Mm-hmm. And when it comes, it's coming in boatloads. Yeah. And that causes problems. Yeah. But in spite of all that, the product will still be
keep coming out
at pied-à-terre at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, because those guys there can do it.
I think we first met talking about sustainability, packaging. Did I reach out to you, or did you? You had.
I think you asked me about it and said
you had some amazing crates.
Yeah.
And we weren't seeing them anymore, but you were saying that everyone was stealing them.
Well, yeah, I mean,
which I realised that we were as well, because we were using them for storage.
Absolutely.
Underneath the kitchen sink.
Yeah. So I desperately want to use returnable crates for all our customers. And we ran a trial about 4 or 5 years ago, and I spent 50 grand on however many boxes. And inside about 4 months, basically they were all gone. Now I know where they were. They were either in your kitchen,
in your home,
as storage, or something to do with the dining room with crockery and linen in, or, because these crates are that good, they're at home in the garage with your tools in, or in the kids' bedroom with the toys in. But they weren't where they were supposed to be. I can't afford to foot a bill like that. Yeah. We all need to play our part. We all need to take responsibility.
I'm noting this is a biodegradable.
Well, it's 100% compostable.
Compostable, yeah. Is this a cornstarch product? Is that what they
I don't know what. Yes, I think it is cornstarch that it's made out of. Now, that's great. Because, and we've been using those now for the best part of 2 years. We don't use plastic anymore. We don't pack
good as well. When you open it, you feel like we're part of the system, we're part of the solution.
The downside with that is that you can see it's slightly opaque.
Yeah.
Historically, we used to use a plastic film-fronted bag with a paper back, and you put the product in it, and it looked amazing.
Yeah.
And very easy for you guys to do the visual QC.
You can see you're happy with it.
Now you've actually got to open the bag and have a little look in it. Which, okay, that's the price you pay. I'm sure at some point we will get 100% compostable bags that are completely clear.
That previous bag with the paper and the film, that was non-recyclable because it was...
That's right, because it was a mixture.
Product,
yeah. But the product looked amazing. You know, you'd look at the orders all packed and you'd look in each box and it was just like, this looks amazing. Because you're dealing with product that's so colourful in every way, you can't fail to make it look good. But now, when I look at orders, they don't shine at me now. They don't sing to me anymore, because if they're in the bag, that's it. Having said that, a lot of people now don't want bags at all. They will have it loose packed.
Open. Yeah, in the box.
That's it. So if there's somebody wants, I don't know, 20 oranges or something, we put it in the box and it's not in a bag.
This is you brought along some of your, the man from Del Monte.
Yeah, now that's a honey glow pineapple.
Smells delicious.
And I don't think they're available in supermarkets, but you will get them in high quality independent greengrocers.
A couple of things here that people won't have seen before, and I actually think the yellow one, you're going to tell us what it is. I've requested this because it's so funky.
Well, I can tell you what it is, but you're going to have to tell me what you do with it. So basically that's called Buddha's hand, or actually Buddha's finger. Take your pick.
Yeah.
This is from Guatemala. It's from the citrus family, same as oranges and clementines and that sort of thing.
How much would a single hand like that cost? Approximately. We're not going to hold you to it.
Well, to be honest, I don't know, because I got this in special, so we could actually look at something that looks a bit weird. It's not going to be cheap because, again, it's an air freight product. So straight away, the minute you start talking about air freight, it adds the cost on. But you tell me, what do you do with it?
So we would use the zest. I happen to have a microplane here.
One he made earlier.
I know that we would use it to create a citrus feeling. Oh, wow. And it does smell very much like...
Thank you.
The ripest and most juiciest of lemons.
It's a very, very strong lemon.
Very citrusy.
Aroma.
There's another one called calamansi, which comes from the Philippines. I use it at home a lot. Yeah. That is just a huge citrus hit.
So that's what you use the zest for?
What we use the rest of it for, well, that's a different program.
I like it. A teaser.
So there's some things that I know this is kohlrabi.
Can we just go back to the pineapple for a minute?
Back to the pineapple, sure.
Because I was in Miami at Christmas, went to a farmer's market, and I found a product that I'd never seen before. It was a pineapple. It was a pink glow pineapple. So you cut it in half, and it's pink. I was like a kid on Christmas Day who just got the bike he wanted, because I'd found a product I'd never seen before. And when you think you've seen it all until you haven't.
Yeah.
So it's like, right, how can we get hold of these then? Didn't even know it existed. And as it stands, it's only available in the United States and Canada. They're not moving it. Well, that's okay, but we've got to go a bit further on this one. So even as we speak, there's a gentleman I know who's the co-founder of an IT business called Fresho that supplies ERP solutions into the distribution sector. He's in New York at the moment, and we hatched this plan that when he gets there, he's going to buy a suitcase. He's then going to go into a store or a wholesaler, and he's going to buy 40 pink glow pineapples. He's going to put them in the suitcase. He's going to put a few towels around them. They're pretty robust. They'll be okay. They don't need to be... you can get away without refrigerating these for a period of time. And then he's going to bring them back as part of his luggage coming back. Now, it's one of these things where you can bring it in from the States into this country. It doesn't require what's called a phytosanitary certificate. So you can just bring it in. It doesn't need to be inspected. And hopefully, next week, I'm going to get a suitcase with 40 pink glow pineapples, then I've got some serious bragging rights, because
the first importer to the UK.
And it was all down to a guy called Hugh Birrell from Fresho, and because he's an IT guy, well, they're an IT business, but he can say, okay, I can do this, or I'm going to try to do it. Now, whether it comes to pass, I don't know, but it will not be for the want of trying. And I shall be, if they rock up at our place, I shall be a very, very happy boy.
That's an amazing story, isn't it? You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a very good way of putting it, yeah.
Yeah, and you haven't seen it before. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, you've just not seen it before.
Correct.
So I mentioned there's a melon here, but you said it's not just any melon?
Well,
am I right? So this is
yeah,
chap.
It's a honeymoon melon. If you'll notice on the top, there's a bit of wax on the top.
Yeah,
now, you've perhaps seen that on...
I don't recollect seeing that before.
You might have seen them on wax-tip pears. The idea is that bit of wax there seals the top of the melon where the moisture would come out, and it ripens from the inside, so you get a more intense melon flavour.
Wow.
And a more intense melon aroma.
Who thought of this?
They do it with that. I wasn't aware until recently they did this on melons. They've been doing it for years in France, and maybe in Italy with that particular melon, on wax-tip pears, where they put a little bit of wax on the stalk, and it sort of seals it. Again, reassuringly expensive, but that's what our customers want.
So the kohlrabi, I know that currently at Pied-à-Terre, Alberto is putting the kohlrabi onto a spiralizer, and he makes like a tagliatelle, a linguine of kohlrabi, which is super, super tasty. You've got broccoli, which is it's just the best of English.
That's tender stem broccoli. That is organic. Now, we don't buy it because it's organic. We buy it because it's the best we can get our hands on. The fact it's organic, one could say, is a Brucey bonus.
I said to you earlier, I don't buy biodynamic wines and natural wines unless they're palatable.
Exactly. It's all well and good, but certain things do come. There's compromise. If you're prepared to make the compromise, that's fine. That's not my choice to make. That's what my customers make that choice based on what their customers want. But funny enough, the guys that grow this, funny enough, the farm is called Bedlam Farms. Bedlam, if you're of a certain age, you'll remember it's what the lunatic asylum was called in Victorian times. And they do a phenomenal job on all things organic. They grow a huge amount of squashes and gourds. They grow asparagus. They grow globe artichokes. But the tender stem is a standout. Interesting thing on the tender stem, funnily enough, just reminded me, is that it's got a patent on it, and there's a company in Japan called Sakata, and they have the breeding rights to tender stem, genuine tender stem, and they will send, they send people to growers of tender stem in this country and all over the world, and they will audit them to make sure, and they will do a DNA test on the tender stem to make sure it is tender stem, because there are some other pretenders that are around that aren't quite as good, and that's how far they go to protect the integrity of the seed they're selling to the growers who produce the product.
So we've touched on nearly everything here except the purple bean, which I thought was going to be more like a cannelli or a borlotti bean, but
at the end, I wanted to bring something actually finola in with a bit of colour, and I knew I was on a hiding to nothing, because the shirts that you wear are always going to outshine a purple bean. There's no question.
I'm a man of many shirts.
That said, today's shirt, sir, is more on the sober side than what I'm used to seeing you in. But I'm sure it must be in the wash.
I hope I haven't disappointed.
Yeah. So there's purple ones, there's white ones.
Is it a bean or is it?
Yeah, it's a bean. Yeah.
And would you? Do you pod it or do you eat the whole thing? Is it like a green bean?
Yeah, but you pod it. I guess you could eat all of it, but again,
it feels like you could.
That's down to
that's tasty.
what you guys do when it gets in your kitchen.
I wouldn't pretend.
I wouldn't pretend to be a cook. I know nothing. I can burn water. that's how bad I am at cooking. But fortunately, I know lots of people who are very, very good at it,
Mhm.
and that's why you hand the product over, and these people create wonderful things.
So we've got 15 vans on the road. We've got
Yeah.
300 restaurants. How many employees?
45.
45.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
When people say to me, they look in the restaurant and say, well, small business, how many people working here? I go, minimum 28 to make it work. And they go, how can that be? Like, well, we've got 2 kitchen porters, there's 2 shifts to cover. It takes 6 chefs minimum. Albie would prefer 7 chefs if he could. There's a reservations person who looks after the bespoke private dining. We've got our GM who's pretty much Sue's just everywhere.
Yeah.
She was with me in the class this morning. She was tidying down, setting up. We had a busy restaurant service. We've got 3 on the floor, receptionist, and we've got so many shifts to cover. It's very easy to hit 30 staff. I think at one stage, before COVID, when we were doing a much fuller week, we were nearer 55 staff.
Yeah. That's a lot of people. I mean, I know how big your premises aren't compared to our premises.
Yeah.
So you've got basically 10 more people there than we've got in ours.
No,
And we
currently we're operating under 30. We probably have more because we've not been able to, since Brexit, we've not been able to get the youth of Europe who used to come in and work for 10, 11, 12 quid an hour being tray carriers. So what we now have is we have a pool of about 9 young people who are at college and university, all of whom get, regardless of their age, they get full minimum wage. So we've got kids on 16, 17, 18 who are earning 12 odd pounds an hour. But they all work, none of them really work more than 20 hours or 15 hours. But we have to, it's a jigsaw puzzle that we have to put together every week. Who's getting hours and who's not.
So the hike in the employer's national insurance
hurts
you.
them,
I mean, all our crew are full time.
Yeah.
But so pro rata, the impact to your business is worse than it is at ours.
It's worse, yes, because
sure,
they've reduced the threshold.
Threshold, yeah.
So a lot of kids who would have done 20 hours and not paid any national insurance are now in it, and as are we. Don't get me started on Rachel Reeves. That's a sore subject.
No, let's try and leave the politics out.
Yeah, let's keep it positive. Positivity.
If we go down the politics route, it's never going to end well. Ever.
It can't.
So, going back to your story, so you started at the Manoir.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get from that point to owning your own successful restaurant? What was the transition between there and...
Good question. Have we got enough time?
Did you rob a bank? I don't know.
Well,
You look the sort.
I raped an audience. So I was at the Manoir.
Interesting choice of words, but carry on.
The audience were well-to-do clientele at the Manoir, who I was targeting customers coming from London. And the plan was to open with my first business partner and great friend Richard Neat, to open our restaurant Pied à Terre in central London. We toyed with the idea and we'd looked at sites around Beaconsfield and Marlow. They just weren't ready for. We didn't feel anything that was there was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday business. Nothing that could stay in a serious restaurant 5 or 6 days a week. So we targeted central London. I targeted getting to know all the really good customers, returning customers who were coming from London. And for instance, Heston Bluemantle. Heston, I know him as a 14-year-old kid with his parents coming in for Sunday lunch. And his parents would have been people that I would have been writing to. Yeah. So I would have been picking up contacts and cards from people. I came clean with Raymond in the year before I left and told him what I was doing. And he also he offered to help. And he gave me a list of other possible investors, some of whom became our largest investors, actually a Chicago family that I didn't have on my radar at all. So people would say, David, you're a young guy, what are you going to do? And I'd go, well, I'm going to open my own restaurant in London. of course, sowing the seed that I always said we were going to open, we were going to aim for 2-star Michelin. And we did do that. I mean, in 1996, we opened in December 91, got our first star in 93, and then picked up the second star in 96 with Richard.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Did exactly what we said we'd do on the tin.
Yeah. But were you earning money at 2-star status?
Not with Richard. Finances were tight.
Yeah.
Then when Richard left and Tom Akins took over, the kitchen did become more profitable. And then it became probably at its most profitable with 2 stars with Shane Osborne.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've had a...
Was that your sort of golden era, if you will?
Golden era would be... so in 2004 we had a fire and we were closed for 11 months. But we just had our busiest, best year ever, and we hadn't declared a dividend. We were due to, but we had, which meant that the bank account was healthy.
Yeah.
And we had issues with the insurance, so we had lots of underinsurance issues. The issue with underinsurance issues are that if you're not able to stomp up the underinsured part, they don't pay the insured part. So we were underinsured on our wages. Due to mismanagement by the broker, which we took to court and we won.
Good.
So, but the point there is that if you happen to, for example, underinsure by 20% your wage bill, they'll pay you the 80p in the pound once you pay the 20p in the pound.
Yeah.
But because you're underinsured, they will insist that you must pay that 20p first.
Yeah.
Then they'll pay the 80.
Yeah.
Because it's a way of getting out of jail for them.
Sure.
If you can't pay the 20, then
they don't have to pay the 80.
They don't have to pay the 80, yeah. But we had money in the bank. We were well financed, and actually Shane and I both remortgaged, we remortgaged our homes back then in 2004, and we shoved a load more money into the company. So we have a building that is fit for purpose. It's no longer an 1873 original build. It is a steel frame building. This must be getting very boring for everybody. Steel frame building. If an earthquake hits Charlotte Street, 34 will still be standing because it's got a steel frame around it.
Right. Okay. So that was your golden era, your golden period, your gilded age, if you will.
Yeah.
And where's the trade now? Because if you're not doing it,
You're not doing it. So we've had a little bit of a revolving door over the last 18 months with head chefs. Asimakis left, which was absolutely fine. He'd been with me for 13 years, gave 6 months notice, all of that. He worked his arse off till the end. And we now have Alberto Cavalieri, a lovely English guy with Italian parents. We've had a few reviews. Getting a head chef coming in, bringing together his own new team of people, because he always wants the people that he trusts around him. That's always going to happen. Yeah. Or when Alberto joined, the old team, they slowly peel away. They peel away. So he's got his whole team now. He's in 6 months. We had a reviewer in last week who's of significance, a gentleman called Andy Haler, who if you Google Andy Haler reviews online, you will find he reviews 2 restaurants a week. He is quite brutal when it's not right, and he's. But
is he complimentary when it's bang on the money? Yeah,
and you get his on departing the restaurant last week. He said it was a very impressive first meal from Alberto, and he was talking about one particular dish being a 17 out of 20, which, if you translate over to Michelin, it actually translates as possibly a 2-star dish.
Okay.
We're not going to count our chicks before they hatch. He will give us his review is well followed, very well followed. So we're hopeful now. The prospects for the summer are that on the back of that, we might see some other reviewers. The thing is that nobody really wants to write about a restaurant that's been around 34 years.
Yeah, it's all about the new kids on the block, isn't it?
Kids on
Yeah.
the block, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we were that new kid on the block, and we
Yeah.
did benefit from that back in the in the early 90s.
But you are still on the block. You might
We
not be
are,
the new
yeah,
kid,
we're
but you're still on the block.
We're going to go down fighting. Definitely going to go down fighting.
So, I suppose, yeah, we ought to think about wrapping this up. So, the idea was
What,
trying
you
to...
thinking I'm running out of white wine?
No, because I bet you've got another bottle tucked under the table there. I'd be disappointed if you hadn't. No, Sonny, did you bring just one bottle of Diet Coke for me?
I've got two.
Oh, he's got two. So there's 2 bottles of wine then. Sorted. Your opening remarks on this is about, telling people about hospitality and what goes around it. And it is, whether you're in the supply side to hospitality or in hospitality, from my point of view, it is a career. No question about it. It's not just a filler. It's not just for somebody who's coming out of uni till they get what they might call a proper job. And if people would embrace it, it's got an awful lot of incredibly rewarding, both at your end of it, my end of it, supply side. But it's almost got a reputation of being it's a filler. Whereas we talked earlier about in France, where people do view it as a career. And I think if we can help change that perception, then
Chip
that would
away
be
at
good.
it slowly. Chip away at it.
Absolutely.
I'm not giving up on it. And if people realise that that's probably it could be grade related. It's you're not going to get the university that you want. You go to a secondary university, you don't get the degree that you want. Has anybody ever told you that you could be paid for tasting wine?
Yeah,
it's a great
That's a
job.
good point.
Sommeliers, minimum 40 grand a year. Head sommelier, 75, 80,000 a year in the right establishment. Wine buyer and somm for a group could be up to 120, 150,000 a year. You get your qualifications. Start off with Wine and Spirit Trust 1. Do that whilst you're at Polytechnic. There aren't any polytechnics because they're all universities now.
Absolutely.
Do that as soon as you
Not
can.
all of them are red bricks either, but that's another story.
Get Wine and Spirit 2. Wine and Spirit 3 is trickier. You need more experience. But maybe go along to your nearest restaurant that has a nice wine list and say, can I get some work experience? Can I come and work for 3 hours on a Friday and a Saturday for free? Just to help you serve your wines and taste your wines. I would totally embrace anybody who walked in the door and asked for that. Then you've got to go to court sommelier, which is that's really hard. That's sort of like university level, where you have to do blind tastings. You really need to know your shit. And then master sommelier, that's a big thing. But there is a master of wine, which is there's 485 masters of wine on the planet. That is it. If you are cerebral, intellectual, good at writing essays, able to smell burnt popcorn on a wine, able to detect the acidity levels suit a shale-type soil only known in one vineyard in Burgundy. Master of wine, you're looking at more than several £100,000 a year, working with supermarkets, brands, wineries. An amazing career. Lots of opportunities.
Yeah, and it's interesting you saying that, because what was coming home loud and clear then is that people have this perception sometimes that hospitality is a young person's game. No. And I think it's true of a lot of things in life. The older you get, the better you get.
Truly.
No question about it.
Yeah.
When I was late teens, early 20s, I always read the business pages. Devoured it. Sunday Times business section was my go-to. But I could never work out, when I was that age, why all the boards of these PLCs had got all these crusty old buggers on the board. Nobody was younger than 60 up to 80. And I couldn't work this out. Yeah. Why don't you want the youth and dynamism that goes with it? And when I got to 60, I realised why. Because you've seen lots, you've heard lots, you know lots.
You're less impulsive.
Oh, absolutely.
More measured.
Yeah. So people don't want to be afraid of the aging process. You know,
No,
there's a
embrace
lot
it,
of
yeah.
very good things, and broadly speaking, life can get a lot easier as well because you're not phased, you're not panicked by anything because you've seen. If you haven't seen it before, you've seen a version of it before, and you can draw on that experience. And
So Peter has been there 34 years. We have a chairman, Nick, who I met on table 15 back in 1985. No, not 85. 89 at the Manoir. He is still our chairman 34 years on. He's 85.
There we go.
Ex-city law firm partner. And everything that we do is run by him. And you know, the irritating thing, fun story. Back in the day when we had Raymond, Clifford and Nick on our board, we used to call the board the grown-ups.
Yeah.
And we've got a meeting with the grown-ups tomorrow, and I go,
Yeah.
shit, I haven't got all my paperwork.
Yeah.
I haven't got the accountant hasn't sent me this through. I'm waiting for a fax. I'm waiting for a fax from the bookkeeper. And we used to call Clifford, who was a non-exec up until about 3 years ago, when he passed away. We used to call him the old git, and we always called Nick the Grim Reaper.
Right.
Because he started every sentence. He has two favourites, and you'll be listening to this, Nick, Margaret and William at home, and you'll be saying, I know what he's going to say next. Every sentence started with the problem with that or the trouble with that.
Yeah.
He would give you all of the negatives before any possible positives. And the really, really irritating thing is 99% of the time he was right.
Interesting though, you used the word problem there, that apparently, you know, the problem with, to me, there's no such thing as a problem. There's only ever
solution.
an opportunity. It's the opportunity.
Opportunity.
It's the opportunity.
I like that one as well.
Sometimes you've got to be patient and wait for it to come along that's related to that. Sometimes it's so obvious it smacks you in the face. But my approach to life is that not a problem, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
We're going to solve the problem, we'll be a better business. I'll solve the problem, I'll be a better person because I'm actually wiser after the event than before the event. And that can be in the commercial world, it can be in your private life, whatever it is. Yeah. And that's my take on life.
Yeah.
Where's the angle? You know, what's another one? Never waste a good crisis. Never waste a good crisis.
Never ruin a good story by telling the truth.
Well, there is that to it as well.
And another of mine is, you know, people ask me how I am. I am known locally at home around Gray's Inn Road as Mr. Tip Top, because everybody says, how are you? I go, Tip Top. Yeah. And there's always that, the show, the swan with the madly flapping legs. Yeah. We do our gracious above water, and we sail on. We sail on and we sail on, and I think we sail on. This has been a wonderful afternoon.
I've enjoyed it because we just sat and talked about
two old
things,
gits.
Your end of it and my end of it. That we love doing. I mean, don't lose sight of the fact. I've said it, I think, at the beginning. What I do is a privilege because it works for me.
I am very privileged to have a wonderful team behind me who, I know sometimes I might be irritable and difficult. That is as bad as it gets. I'm never rude and never grumpy at work. I always want to lead my team from the front. I was going to use some sort of like Napoleon analogy there, but I can't think of anything that's worthy of using that doesn't have violence behind it, because that's not me.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point there about the team. I mean, we've got some phenomenal people at Rushton's who, put bluntly, have what I call the give a shit factor.
Yeah.
And
I recollect asking for phyllo brick 4:00 one afternoon.
You made that call to me, and I was stood on top of a Mayan monument in Mexico.
In Mexico
at the time. That was a couple of years ago. In fact, it was March last year. And
the phyllo brick was delivered an hour and a half later by a member of your team on his way home.
On his motorbike.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Much needed.
Well, you could either do it or not do it. Logistically, it was possible, so we did it. That was the way it was.
Sorry to ruin your moment in Mexico. Yes.
No, it's actually added to it. You know, it's something that I'll never forget. What did you do in Mexico? Oh, I took a phone call about some pastry. Some dickhead had forgot to order it. It's not unusual.
Indeed. So we'll draw a close to our mangoes, kohlrabis, pineapples, hand of Gouda, hand of Butter even. Cheers.
Cheers. All the best.
Thank you.